In this video, we're going to talk about turf cutting, which is one of my favorite things to do. Other people find it tedious, but I find that cutting turf is really fun to do, either in a turf cutting party with volunteers and organizers, or even by yourself. But regardless, cutting and assigning turf is going to be critical for making sure that your volunteers and your organizers are able to talk to voters at the doors where you need them to talk to people. So I will say first that cutting turf is optional. You could, if you wanted to, assign turf entirely by a precinct or a census block if you want to make it easier. But if you do want to cut custom turf, you can do so within two different ways. One is under quick links, where there's a default quick link for cut custom turf. Two is under this outreach button, where you can go here to door-to-door canvassing and click on cut custom turfs, where it's going to bring you to a map that'll map basically to where your geography is set. So the first thing I like to do when I get to this map is I like to select a map layer. I like to kind of display my precincts here, so that I can see, very specifically where each of the precincts on the map are. The next thing I like to do is then load a universe of voters that I want my campaign to talk to. So I'm going to go ahead and load this master universe 2. And then once the universe of voters kind of pops up, what you're going to see is these clusters of voters. So the colors do mean different things. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit so I can kind of show you what the colors mean. But as you'll see here, if you see an orange-red color, that means that there's 100+ voters within that cluster. If you see this yellow color here, that means that there are basically 11 to 100 voters within that cluster. And then if you see a green cluster, that means that it's 10 and under voters. And then there's also another view. You don't have to view by cluster. You could choose, hey, I'm going to go to this button, and what I want to see here instead of clusters is I want to see the individual households in which the voters are located. And so you can kind of see there's 2 voters located here, 1 voter located here. And it's really just a preference of what view you want. I'm going to go ahead and switch back to clusters by clicking this button. And then I'm going to go to this cut turf button because I am ready to cut turf. So cutting turf is really simple. I'm just gonna really cut around the households or the clusters. Just as a pro tip, I am a veteran canvasser. I've knocked on thousands of doors. One of the things that you want to make sure that you're doing is being aware of, hey, is this crossing precinct lines? If you want to have turfs, if you want to have precincts broken into multiple turfs, so just make sure you have that precinct view on. Another tip, of course, is just to make sure that the turf is walkable for a canvasser, or at the very least is drivable, and that way the turf that you're assigning to a volunteer can be completed easily so that they can go out and have good conversations with voters and get really good data for your campaign. Once I close the shape, as you can see, I was clicking around on the map around the clusters. I've now closed the shape that I was clicking around, and it's going to ask me to name my turf. And so what I'm going to name this is just sample A. And then it'll say, okay, what turf group do you want to assign this to? Well, turf groups are actually pretty important because the turf group is basically when you go to create a Canvas project and assign it to canvassers on the mobile app, you're going to do so by turf group if you're not doing so by precinct or census block. And so basically your turf group is all of these custom turfs that you're cutting. And most often people do it by geography. So I could say this is, Southeast Fresno if I wanted to, or we'll actually change that to Southwest Fresno. And then I'll just go ahead and save it. And then if I wanted to do another turf, I could go ahead and do this process again. And let's say I just really specifically wanted this area right here. I just click around and I'll do the same thing. I'll name this sample B, and I'll assign it to my Southwest Fresno. That way, when I go to assign a grouping of turfs, I can just say, hey, we're walking in Southwest Fresno today, and all the turfs that I cut in Southwest Fresno then get assigned out to the canvassers. So it's a very, very simple project, very easy. You just cut your turf until you're done, and then once you are done, what you can do is go down here, and if you are ready to assign turfs out, you can proceed to the assign areas page. But if you still need to take some more steps like creating a Canvas project or learning how to assign Canvas projects, go ahead and watch the next videos within this playlist. And thank you for watching, and have a great day.